It's kind of crazy the amount of drama a few beads of sweat can cause throughout the entire One Piece community. And yes, I know that this is only important because it's Zoro versus Mihawk, but the amount of people who are getting super heated about these beads of sweat, and the amount of people now starting to power scale other characters due to their beads of sweat is a bit ridiculous. If people are going to seriously say that Odin is stronger than Prime Whitebeard just because of these beads of sweat in Wano, I better see the same amount of expertise and critique when I see the takoyaki being considered stronger than Jinbei, Mihawk, and this random octopus. Now obviously I'm making the situation seem like a joke, but some people are genuinely power scaling off of sweat over anything else. Sweat is now considered a feat in One Piece, and that's just crazy. But first and foremost, I'm not a power scaler. I'm the guy who said Lucci is above Kizaru, Fujitora, and Green Bull, if you want to know how valid I am on power scaling, which is not at all.
Why is Fujitora over Kizaru?
I just think he's cooler. That's really it. That's actually it.
Okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept that honest.
What I care about the most in One Piece is the emotional narrative, the character growth, and the plot and mystery of what the One Piece is, and how Luffy is somehow going to defeat the world government. And obviously, if everything were fully static, Luffy would probably never even beat Crocodile. But the emotional narrative that allows him to win these fights makes it a lot more compelling, and we've seen this over and over and over again. So to me, power scaling doesn't really matter because I know Luffy will win eventually. But the One Piece world is a lot more than just Luffy on his adventure. There are tons of other characters and tons of other factions that make this world feel so real and fleshed out and interesting. Oda has masterfully created not just one, but many organizations in the One Piece world that have their own tier of strength and prestige, and it's incredibly compelling to see how Luffy is able to keep rising up to the task every single time. Whether it be a warlord, a member of Cypher Pole, a warlord under a Yonko commander, or a Yonko itself, maybe even two admirals at this point if Green Bull is actually heading to Egghead. Luffy has continued to rise up to the task every single time. But no, Robocop Kuma here is stronger than Luffy because Luffy's sweating. But this video isn't about Luffy. This video is about Zoro versus Mihawk, one of the most amped up fights in the entire series, and why I think this little bead of sweat caused so much controversy throughout the fandom, and why I think this is a crazy moment for Zoro altogether. Now before I get into the real substance of this video, I just want to say if any of this Zoro talk about Mihawk not being human or being less human than other people does actually allude to the fact that he is a sword or some kind of sword given a devil fruit, huge shoutouts to Parvision for making one of the wildest theories I've ever heard, and with this chapter talking about this type of stuff, possibly even being confirmed. So if you want to check out that video, make sure to check it out right up there in that corner. I almost pointed at the wrong corner like I always do. But yeah, let's get right into it. It's not a stretch to say that Zoro vs Mihawk is one of the most anticipated fights in the entirety of One Piece. This fight has literally been built up for over 1,000 chapters. I'd personally say this is on the same level as Luffy reuniting with Shanks, and I'm not even a Zoro fanboy like that. But again, this isn't a video about Luffy, it's a video about Zoro vs Mihawk. I know a lot of people hate to say it, but ever since Wano, Zoro is literally built different. He's genuinely started to do stuff that I only assumed Luffy would be capable of doing since he's the main character. But Zoro's just coming up and blocking an attack from two Yonko at once. And sure, he did break every single bone in his body, but you know what? He still did it. And I'm just in disbelief this even happened and I actually saw it with my own eyes. And this goes to show the come up Zoro has had since the beginning of the series. Zoro has his most anticipated rival, albeit a younger version of them, sweating. And this goes to show not only how far Zoro has come, but how far the story has come. We are really in the final saga, and Oda has been confirming it over and over again. But you know me, like I said, I'm not a power scaler, but with this opportunity that I'm talking about with Mihawk, I think it would be a great time to give my thoughts on the Mihawk is a sword theory, and possibly add some new insight with some of the stuff we got in chapter 1073. But before we talk about the possibility of swords becoming humans, we need to talk about the possibilities of there being vampires in One Piece. Yes, I can't believe that's a real sentence I just said. God, I love One Piece. Now, with the reveal of Stussy being a seeming vampire race in the world of One Piece, it gets me thinking about a lot of stuff. Like the fact that there are actually other characters we've seen in the story with bat wings up to this point, even on Roger's crew. But if there's a bat race in the One Piece world, where do they come from and where do they go? And where do they come from Cotton Eye Joe? Mihawk has always had a very gothic aesthetic with his all black and red outfit and his super dreary Nightmare Before Christmas island. This man literally lives on an island basically all to himself, completely uninhabited and destroyed. And personally, I couldn't see a better place in the entirety of One Piece for the Bat people to originate, because this place used to be an inhabited island before it was seemingly destroyed by some force we don't know about yet. It's very likely that this race of bad people were subjugated, just like the fishmen, because they both shared the ability to travel all over the world with ease. However, Oda was hiding them in plain sight like he's done time and time again, like with the minks, the dwarves, and the Three-Eyed Tribe with Pudding. Although we've seen objects that were given animal Zoan fruits, we've never seen an object that was given a human model Zoan fruit. And I genuinely think this is going to be something really interesting if this does happen to be the case. My personal belief is that Mihawk has the human model vampire devil fruit. It's crazy to think that the model vampire devil fruit has been such a crackpot theory for such a long time. But now, with this possibly being confirmed as a race in the One Piece world, it's becoming a lot more likely and less seemingly a mythical Zoan. Because a human isn't a mythical Zoan, there are humans that are mythical, but a vampire just being a race in the One Piece world makes it seem a lot more believable. And to make it even more compelling in my opinion, his name isn't just Dracula, something super obviously vampiric. His name is Dracul, something that only alludes to the idea of a vampire while having something more possibly behind it. And the guy rides all over the ocean on a literal coffin. The symbolism is right in our face. Although it's entirely possible that Bakken could be a vampire person, I think that might be more of a gag on Oda's part, calling her an old bat. But I think Stussy having wings, that makes me think that she was not just a clone of Bakken, but also something that was more of a hybrid, sort of like the Seraphim. Now that we're on the idea of experimentation in the One Piece world, let's get into what I think happened when Mihawk was made in the first place, and how this relates to other things that have been made by the world government. We just recently discovered that Mihawk was even referred to as the Marine Hunter, but this has me thinking, why was he hunting Marines in the first place? And does it have something to do with him being some sort of experiment by the world government? The only other sword we've seen that's been given a Zoan fruit has been Funkfreed, a sword that was solely working for the world government to subjugate pirates. Perhaps Mihawk is meant to be the antithesis of Funkfreed, with him being a man in all black and Funkfreed being a white elephant. Yes, I am comparing Mihawk to Funkfreed. Welcome to One Piece in 2023. Now the main thing I want to discuss right now is the will of Zoan devil fruits. A super hot topic to be sure, but it's something I think that's essential. Now, I'm not going to say elephants aren't smart. Elephants don't forget, that's even a whole idiom. But the human mind simply has more capabilities than an elephant's mind does. I think Mihawk getting a human model fruit allowed him to be more independent and not just be a tool to the world government like Funkfreed, and that allowed him to rebel against the Marines, hence them trying to get after him over and over again, and that led to him becoming the Marine Hunter. There's even the possibility that Mihawk is similar to a cursed blade with a will of its own, just like Enma or the Sandai Kitetsu. They have to choose the person that's willing to fight them and wield them, which makes it especially fascinating that since chapter 51, Mihawk knew that Zoro was worthy of fighting him. But now, let's get even deeper with this. There's even more connections to Funkfreed and Mihawk that I didn't even start to talk about yet. Funkfreed is a sword himself, but also has 2 tusks attached to the front of him, therefore making 3 swords. And Mihawk is the same. Let's say Mihawk is a sword, he would also be accompanied by Yoru, his massive cross-shaped blade, and Kogatana, which is the small little dagger that he used against Zoro back in Baratie. Both of these characters would, in essence, be 3 swords, fitting to fight against Zoro. That might actually be the reason that Mihawk was sweating against Zoro in Baratie. After Zoro literally had an attack called 3 Sword Secret, Mihawk might have been found out and realized that he was in fact the 3 Sword Secret. And how fitting is it that the world's greatest swordsman has to defeat a literal sword man? And yup, we're all tying it back to sweat here, guys. You know, we love the full circle type videos, you know what I'm saying? One Piece is a story of will and ambition, and Zoro is clearly one of the most ambitious characters in the entire series. So having him go up against a character that is a sword with a will of its own, with the will of a Zoan devil fruit, with the strongest ambition in the world, since he's the world's strongest swordsman, would be a pretty harrowing task, and I think it's definitely one worth the hype of over 1,000 chapters. I didn't expect this to turn into a Mihawk video talking about Funkfreed and vampires, but here we are, and if you liked it, thanks for watching.